Hello, new oboe students. Let's get ready to play. First of all, we've got to assemble the instrument. So let's do it. The first step, we need a reed to play the oboe. I've got lots of them here. You've probably got one or two or a few. And that's totally cool. But we want to make sure that this reed gets soaked so it's nice and moist and it won't vibrate, okay? So I like to carry water with me. These are film canisters, like with a camera. It used to not be just your phone. You would actually develop film. So I like these. These are watertight. You can get them on like eBay for a couple bucks or whatever. And you wanna make sure there's enough water in here to cover the wooden kind of part of the reed, not like all the way up into the string or the cork part. So while you put the instrument together, you can have your reed soaking. Okay, that's gonna make it a lot better. And it will vibrate a lot. Okay, now let's open the case. Your case is probably not fabric, that's fine. But if you have latches, make sure that the latches open like this up. And if there's a brand on it, like this says Luray, Yamaha, something like that, make sure that's up, because if it's down, you're gonna open it upside down, everything's gonna fall out. It'll be horrible. Okay, so I'm opening this. Here's my oboe. This is a professional oboe and it's made of wood, so it probably has more keys than what your student oboe has if you're a beginner. That's made of plastic. That's totally fine at this stage. Just know it won't probably look exactly the same as yours, which is totally fine. So as you can see, there's three different parts. We've got the lower joint here, the upper joint here, and then the bell is right here. So I always start with the upper joint right here. I hold it in my left hand. This is gonna connect to the lower joint. Hold it nice and loose, okay? And we've got a bridge key here. And we wanna make sure, do you see these bridge keys right here? See how they interlock like that? That's good. If it's like this or like this, that's bad because it's not gonna engage. And you also want to make sure that one isn't up and kind of bending the other one. That's bad. Okay, so now we have those two together. We've got the bell. I've got keys on this bell. You probably don't on yours. That's fine. But if you do, just make sure the same thing. There's a bridge key that connects them. Make sure that they're not like grinding against each other and that it's, see how that's not engaged, but this is, okay? So now we've got the oboe put together. Okay, we can close the case. Our reed's been soaking. Now we're getting ready to play. That's how you put it together. Okay, let's talk about how to hold the instrument. So the right hand is gonna hold the weight of the instrument. That is going to go under the thumb rest here, your thumb, and then your fingers are gonna go 1, 2, 3 on these keys, okay? Your pinky will be free to move about to these keys. That's gonna hold the weight of the instrument. The left hand goes on top. You have your octave keys here, or one octave key probably. That's gonna go underneath that, and then we have 1, 2, 3. So that's how you hold the instrument. I have my reed soaking as we were talking about before. So to get the reed out, what I like to do is have it in the water, right? Only up to the part, I don't know if you can see that, up to the wood part, not the string and not the cork, because that part doesn't need to be soaked, okay? So once you have that, what I like to do is actually close the end of the cork with my finger. So there's gonna be water in there, if you can kind of see that, and it will drip out. What we don't want is all that water to be in there. This is a very small hole, aperture, it's called, opening of the reed. And if there's even one water drop in there, it's very big and it will make it so we can't play. So what I like to do is blow on the cork end of the reed and just get that excess water out, like that. And that should do the trick. Okay, so we've got our reed and we're gonna put it in the reed receiver here, this hole. Okay, it might be a tight fit with your reed. If that's the case, go ahead and put a little bit of cork grease in it. But if it goes in there fine, then don't worry about it. Okay, so the reed should be facing you like this with the flat part like this. If it's like this, that's not good because you have to turn it in a weird way. Make sure the reed is pushed all the way into the receiver, because otherwise you're gonna get some weird things happening and you don't want that. So, okay, so let's talk about sitting with the oboe. Most of the playing you will probably be doing in band is gonna be sitting. So I'm sitting with my hips centered, my feet on the floor. I've got my torso above my sit bones, my hip bones here. I've got my shoulders, my chest opening up, and I've got my head. So here's my music stand. I'm gonna adjust this, so you don't want it too low, you don't want it too high. I'm gonna adjust it as if I were like to read this book normally, okay? And then what I'm going to do, make sure it's far enough away, what I'm gonna do is get my grip on the oboe like we talked about, and I'm gonna bring the oboe, so I can see the music, I'm gonna bring it up to my face like this. Okay? What we don't want is what is more like a clarinet posture, which would be like this, very down. We don't want that, and we don't want like a trumpet type of posture like this. What we want is even pressure between the top and bottom lips on the reed. So that's what we kind of hold it at about a 45-degree angle. You see? Not this, right here. Now, let's talk about how to make a sound on the reed. So we have the instrument here, but the sound source comes from the reed. Okay, remember it's a double reed, so it's got two blades that vibrate against each other. Okay, so with clarinet and saxophone, they have a rubber mouthpiece, and the single reed vibrates against that. With the double reed, like oboe or bassoon, we have two, it's kind of hard to see, we've got two blades that vibrate against each other. Can you kind of see that? Yeah. So what we want to do with our embouchure, which is the shape our mouth makes, what we want to do is make sure that the air can get through that little hole. Okay, so if we bite down too hard with our jaw on this, look what happens. It crushes, right? And no air can go through. So we just want to make sure, remember, all sound is created by vibrations. So we always want to make sure that our reed is allowed to vibrate. So the first step, take your reed, hold it in your hand, 2 fingers, whatever. You're gonna put it on your lower lip like this, just a little bit in like that. Now what you do not wanna do is put your teeth on the reed. It'll make a horrible sound, you don't want that. And it will probably break your reed. So be careful not to hit the reed with the teeth. Remember, the tip is the very thinnest, most delicate part, so be very careful with that. Okay, so what we wanna do, have it on your bottom lip, the reed, and curl your lips over both your lower and your upper teeth, and kind of roll the reed in like that, I guess. Okay, what we want is to think of like a drawstring bag, drawing our corners forward. What we do not, so we want like this. What we don't want is like a smile or a flat line, okay? Because that really tampers down the resonance of the reed, and it makes not a good sound. So that's what we want. We want to take a nice full breath when we're making our sound once we have our good embouchure. So we're going to roll it in. You don't want too much reed in the mouth. You never want to not, if you're looking in the mirror, you never want to only be able to see the string. You don't want this. That's a very uncontrolled sound because under this string is metal, so you have no control. If you're too far on the tip, it's very thin and there's no strength at all, and it won't vibrate. But if you're too far down, you have no flexibility. It's all just metal. So it's going to sound very stiff and uncontrolled. So what you want to do, like I said, roll it in a little bit, just a little bit, maybe 1/8 of an inch. Don't get too specific about it. Just kind of mess around with what sounds best. You're going to take a nice breath from the bottom here. Okay, fast air. Make sure that your embouchure, you're thinking about side to side pressure, or all around pressure, not up and down pressure. Because look what happens if I have too much up and down pressure, right? No air can get through. So we want to think less about this, down, up and down, and more about, see how you can still see some of the cane, it's called wood, people call it, but it's really cane, like not sugar cane, it looks more like bamboo, but that's another video for another day. So that's how we're gonna make it sound with our reed. Okay, so we've made the embouchure, we've played a crow on the reed, that's what it's called when you just play the reed and don't put it in the instrument. And now let's talk about breath support. So as we've said, this is a very small little opening and we wanna get lots of air through there, but there's not a lot of place for the air to go. So you still have to use a lot of air, but it's just concentrated in a different way than say like singing or the flute or the trumpet, which there's not a lot of resistance blowing back. So if you feel like it's kind of hard to get air through, that's kind of how it goes. You'll get used to it. If you feel like you're gonna pass out or something, sit down and take a break. You know, that you just kind of get used to it. But it's a lot of back pressure, it's called, on the reed. So you do want fast air, a fast velocity of air, so not, but, and you want a long sustain of air, not a lot of air all at the front like this. Okay, we want a sustained fast stream of air, like, and I could keep going. Okay, so let's talk about playing our first couple of notes. So we know how to make a sound, we know how to get the reed ready. If it's not vibrating, it probably needs to be soaked more. Remember, you always need the vibration to make the sound. So let's talk about the first few notes. So first finger, we're not even gonna worry about you hold up the right hand, but no fingers down here. So we're gonna play one finger here, that's called B, okay? Sounds like this. Okay, two fingers is called A, and it goes like this. Okay, and G is three fingers. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so with those three notes, we can play the song Hot Cross Buns or Mary Had a Little Lamb. So you can kind of experiment with that just on those three notes, okay? Practice setting your embouchure before you play, okay? And making sure that you're sustaining a fast velocity of air for a sustained amount of time. Okay, so that's the kind of sound we want to hear. Right, not. Right, we want it to settle in. We don't want to overblow, and we don't want to be biting down with top and bottom pressure so much that the reed can't get any air through, and then the reed just closes like this. So I can't get any air through, so there has to be that side to side drawstring like embouchure, not a smile like this, but a forward. Okay, so try that. Play your first couple of notes. Mary Had a Little Lamb, Hot Cross Buns. I know you know how those go. You can figure it out. Use those three notes. 1, B, A, G, and figure it out from there. And then we'll talk about how to put this thing away, okay? Okay, so now that we played the first couple of notes on the oboe, and now we can start practicing. So the best practice strategy is to do little bits often, okay? It's better to practice 10 minutes a day for 6 days a week than it is to practice 1 day a week for 60 minutes, okay? And that's true of studying, practicing soccer, practicing anything. You need to give your brain time to absorb the information that you've learned in practice, okay? So it's more beneficial to do smaller practice sessions more frequently than to do longer ones, kind of like cramming sessions. Those don't work too well. That's not how your brain learns. So especially at the beginning, you want to play until you're fatigued and your mouth feels like it's tired. It's hard to make the embouchure. Stop, go away, do something else, come back. Couple hours later, try it again to point to fatigue and keep doing that. And that's the best way to build up your endurance so that you can start playing for longer periods of time without getting tired. It is a process, but you can do it. You just have to keep with it and keep doing those little practice sessions and increase the time as you go. So that would be my #1 practice tip for you as a beginning oboe player. Okay, so we've learned how to put the oboe together, we've learned how to sit, our posture, how to hold it, we've learned how to make the embouchure, how to create a sound on the reed, how to play the first couple of notes, and a couple of practice tips. So now we're done with our practicing for the day, and it's time to put our oboe away. So first thing, take out the reed, close your water cup there, and you always want to put your reed in a designated reed case. So nothing gets broken. This is kind of a big one. They do make smaller ones that will fit in your case. Like I said, this case is a professional case, so it's got pockets and stuff like that. One thing I like to recommend for my students, because many of them, or all of them, have cases that don't fit. Like I've got a metronome in here. I've got my band director, be proud. I've got quite a number of pencils in here. I've got a tuner, and I've got my cleaning swab and a couple other things. If you don't have a case that holds that, what I suggest is getting like a canvas bag that may be around your house, or like a reusable grocery bag or something like that, and keeping all of your stuff in there. Let me go get an example of what I mean. Okay, yeah, so if you don't have a case that fits all your stuff, something like this, like just a canvas bag you might have around your house somewhere, or like I said, a reusable grocery bag, something like that. You can keep your band folder, your music in there. You can keep your water cup. You can keep your reeds in there. You can just keep all your oboe stuff together. That way you don't get to rehearsal or get home or get to your lesson and not have the things that you need. Okay, so that's my little tip to you. Okay, so now we always want to clean this out. Okay, you say it's like spit, but it's really condensation, which is the difference between the temperature of your air and the temperature in the room. So it does accumulate moisture. So this swab has a weight on it. Okay, so we're gonna drop it down. I just do the whole thing. You can do it in parts. I do the whole thing. The bore or the inside of this oboe or all oboes is very small. I can barely see the end there. Okay, so we want to make sure there's absolutely no knots in this at all, or no knots in the string at all. This is like a safety swab, so that if it does get stuck, don't keep pulling out, pull back. Because I did that one time when I was in 7th grade, and it cost like $100 to like shred the swab in there in the oboe. So I do not recommend that. That's the first and only time I did that. So if you're feeling a little resistance, take it apart, use your safety cord and pull it back, pull the knot back. Don't keep pulling, because that will end in disaster. Take it from me. Okay, so you can do them in parts. I just do it all together. I drop it in, the weight in the bellend 1, 2, 3 times, pull it all the way through like that, just to get the condensation out of there. Then once you do that, you can put that back in, put your water back in your case. My reeds are already in here. And then open the case as we did, making sure it's upright. Then twist the parts. You can do it bell first or top joint, or however you want to do it. Slide it back in the case, and it's their respective slots. Close the case, make sure that the latches are latched. I have a zipper on mine. And that's how you do it. So I hope that this video or these videos have helped you get a little more information about how to do and practice the oboe at home, aside from what your teacher tells you. And take it from me, I've been playing the oboe for like 22 years, so I know a thing or two. So good luck with the oboe, stick with it, and you'll be great. See ya.